women kind of do rule the West. I think that we should maybe just admit it to ourselves so that we can discuss what that means and then maybe move forward. Hey everybody, it's Prince of Queens, and I was just watching a few clips that illustrated a few points back to back, and one of them I was really struggling with. I was trying to think about what bugged me about this so deeply, and then I realized that I had kind of a good addition to it. So I'm gonna talk about that right before I mention that, hey, enjoy Thanksgiving. I hope you do. I hope I do. And that everything is cool and wherever you are. It is a holiday. It is an American holiday. It's an American specific holiday. And whether or not you're celebrating in mourning for the Native Americans that mostly died of disease when we came over, or if you're celebrating just because it's an American tradition, I hope that you find some enjoyment from it, because that's really what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be about having fun, and nobody should ever take the fun out of holidays. And also, if you would like to, you can always donate to me on PayPal, give me some Christmas money so that I could spend having good times with my female family. So, do you know who probably does take the fun out of holidays a lot? Feminists. Yeah, we know that. We are on social media, and it's really plain as day to see because they feel like they need to denounce everything. Kind of like the ACLU. The ACLU's been saying all these really provocative things on Twitter and making little memes for themselves, but it's particularly annoying. And one of the things I've been realizing over the past few days is that women really are in charge of our society, and it's in a kind of a strange way. And I used to think that ultimately feminists wanted it to be that women wouldn't have to be in charge because men would do all the hard stuff and women would just have veto power over everything. And I want to say that I changed my opinion on that, but I don't think I really have. And it has to do with women's entitlement and the innate characteristics of what we call gynocentrism over on the MRA side. And gynocentrism is incredibly powerful. It's came from evolutionary psychology, and it's just the fact that women had to survive more so that they could stay fertile and bring us more babies. And that was just how life worked. So it's hardwired into us that we protect and serve for women. But I think that men, maybe in the caveman, ape days, maybe they really did rape the cave womany ape thing, Neanderthal thing that we were back in the day. And maybe guys were really possessive and treated women like they were owned by them to a certain degree, maybe to a much larger degree than it is now. And so it gives women these complexes. And now they always have to fight to make us remember that they are the ones that we need to pay attention to. By and large, and even if they're not feminists, they do actually have that I'm a woman, give me attention, blah, 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 blah. Now, it's not always pity me, but it is always this thing where women can just sort of order men around. And maybe it works like that. I've had women that I've been around a whole lot, and they would start ordering me around, and it was okay, because I was legitimately forgetting to do things. And so I'm not saying that's a problem, but I think that it's gone a bit too far, obviously. And I think it's gotten to the point where women are simultaneously aware of this, but also taking advantage of the fact that they think that they can get more, and men haven't wisened up and figured out what's the good intermediary between these two things. And the only thing I can say about how men should do that is what I hope doesn't happen is that every guy goes gay and stops having sex with them entirely, because I don't want to live in a nation that's full entirely of gay leaders, because I know gay guys and I know what their priorities are, and it's not exactly usually being particularly responsible for anybody besides themselves. And maybe we're going to hear more and more about these great gay dads that'll prove me wrong. And I really like to imagine that they're all out there and that we could do it without biological males, biological females raising children. But I kind of just don't think that that'll actually work. And so all of these women that actually take Greta Thunberg seriously, or whatever, the Swedish creepy environmentalist little girl that is actually 16, even though she looks like she's 10. The type of women who take her seriously should realize that it's not necessarily going to be global warming that gets you. It's going to be you guys behaving like this woman describes.
What is it actually to be a woman? This is missing. What is being exposed now, that being a woman, is that we have so much power and we are going to use it quite irresponsibly. This is what I see with the Me Too movement, that it's gone too far. It's like we're becoming crazed with our own power, so we're just gonna get at it, instead of saying, okay, women, sisters, what do we want to do with this space that we...
I don't know what it is about that woman in particular, but there's something so feminine about her, and she's some sort of psychologist or whatever, and it just makes her seem like a representative of all women, and I understand that. But when she says these things, it does seem like she's speaking for all women, because who could deny the reality of what she just said after the Me Too era has already at least been well underway? And the thing is, I don't even really like her all that much. If you watch the rest of the video, which I will link from Rebel Wisdom, I don't agree with a number of the things that she says. I think she takes it too far, and she's kind of trying a little bit too hard to play the feminist, or leftist rather, probably, like me, I'm the good person, I'm polite and I understand your concerns type game. It's kind of like the difference between Jordan Peterson and Jonathan Haidt. I don't really like Jonathan Haidt as much as I like Jordan Peterson, and I definitely have my criticisms of Jordan Peterson, but what I appreciate about Jordan Peterson is that he doesn't really sugarcoat his writing and his words. He speaks with the most appropriate qualifiers and just naturally doesn't really mess up that much. Whereas Jonathan Haidt seems like a bit of a phony, and this woman seems like a little bit of a phony, but she did really shed light on something, which is this notion of female power basically by force. Women can do this thing, and it's so powerful, and it's always been around. People act like this is some new thing with the Me Too era. It's like, when did it ever stop? When wasn't the Me Too era? This one just had a particular wave of media targeting or something, is what it seemed like. But ultimately, it made me start thinking about this video that I saw from Steve Brule of Studio Brule that was an hour long, and it was kind of a research video that he put together, and you should really watch this. This was really great. It talks about the early formational years of the feminists that drafted such things as the Declaration of Sentiments. And it's really informative, and it just shows how awful the earliest feminists were, about the worst ones of all. They were really, really terrible. They already had all of the power that they wanted over their men, and they were trying to just get a little bit more. And that's kind of what feminists seem to be to me at this point. And what I found particularly poignant is that I was watching this Red Pill documentary screening from 2 years ago, and it was a question and answer period. And I think that they got somewhere having to do with patriarchy or something, and then somebody brought up gynocentrism, which is obviously perfectly fair. It's a perfectly fair thing to bring up. And here's the thing that you should know about these feminists. These are feminists on an MRA screening panel. And so they are there representing feminism to a bunch of feminist critics. And so obviously they are on their best behavior. You know, like all the times feminists think that they can fool you saying, oh, it's just about equality, or, oh, to me it's just freeing me from society's expectation of gender roles, blah, blah, blah. And they think that you don't know what feminism actually is. Well, these women were trying hard not to do that because they wanted to pretend in front of an audience that they were the good feminists, because they didn't know how to approach this situation where MRAs were saying, hey, we have these issues, you don't do any of these things, you don't care about us in these certain ways, you don't care about boys, you don't care about circumcision, blah, blah, blah. And they were valid criticisms, right? But the feminists wanted to sit there and say, no, I do agree with that. No, I want it. But they didn't have anything to show for it. They didn't have any examples to bring up. And what I believe happened at this moment is that this guy brought up gynocentrism. And I'm just going to play this for a little bit. But the mask slips a bit with this woman. And you can see it. You can see her struggling, and instead of turning rational, instead of just saying, maybe I have a little bit of growing to do, blah, 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 like she should have, she starts pulling the female power trip, and you can see it. I really want you guys to watch it. She believes with all of her, every bit of the fiber of her being, that if she gets melodramatic and starts having a little micro freak out, even in front of a room full of MRAs, she knows that she can come out on top. And she, honestly, I don't know, you will get to tell me if she came out on top or not, but it's amazing to see how she plays that room around her own emotions.
I'd just like to pick up on an earlier point that, is it Lucinda, I think, made earlier on, about the predominance of men in Parliament and passing laws. And feminists tend always to think, well, it's mostly men that did it, therefore they must be passing laws to advantage men. That simply isn't the case. I mean, you know, if you look at the criminal justice system, if men were sentenced with the same leniency as women in the criminal justice system, 5 out of 6 men currently in British prisons would not be there. And I look forward to feminists campaigning for more women in prison.
Well, if you do something bad, if a woman raped a man, if a woman seriously sexually assaulted a man, she should go to prison. So a woman can seriously sexually assault a man. This is absolutely possible. This is true. It is called serious sexual assault. That is the law. My initial usage of the word is correct. A woman can be prosecuted for seriously sexually assaulting a man, but not for rape. However, how many judges that sit on the majority of criminal cases are women?
What's your point there?
Well, your point is that men are receiving tougher sentences for the same acts as women.
From both male and female judges.
Okay, but the majority of judges are men, and our legal system works through precedent. Therefore, the precedent has been set by men against men.
That's because we live in a completely gynocentric culture. Men are provisioning for women. It's another way that men are provisioning for women.
Do you know why this concept of gynocentric is really interesting to me? Do you know where it comes from?
No, I don't actually
Okay.
know where it comes from, no.
Well, if we think about, we're talking about historic roles and the fact we need to change these roles. We desperately need to change these roles, these gender roles. You've spoken very eloquently about it. You've made a beautiful film about it. This sense of gynocentric comes from the same place that caused the horrific death of all of those Boko Haram boys, that traditionally men have been the power, men have been the fighters, men have been the ones to go to war, men have been the ones that have been conscripted, sent to slaughter. And women have been needed for the production of the race. So there is an element of gynocentricity, if you like, because historically we needed to be protected so we could continue to be fertile. Our value was in our fertility. Our value was in our ability to bear children.
I feel I'm being lectured.
I'm ever so sorry. It's the teacher in me. I can't help it.
No, I don't mind hearing an opinion. It's the tone, not the opinion. It's the tone. No, my tone's... No. Well, yes, I'm speaking. I'm sorry. Would you like the mic?
So the woman is actually wrong. And I said something at the beginning of this video that sounded vaguely like what she was talking about, but ultimately she said that gynocentrism comes from culture, and that's something that feminists are getting wrong. Now, they do not want to get rid of it. She was banking on the gynocentrism of the crowd, even of MRAs, that she could just verge on throwing a little drama fit and that everybody would be okay. But the guy was like, no, don't do this to me. But ultimately, the idea that she misinterpreted people's urge to protect women, which is instinctive, it is in our DNA, to be a cultural thing, that does get at a lot of problems. So immediately when I see that clip, I think of times in which I've been around women who they know, they're so aware that they can just go into that voice where they're like, I'm about to throw a fit, I'm about to slap you, I'm about to scream at any moment, and you have to sit there and observe her, or you don't know what she's going to do. And women can do that in a way that men just can't. And I'm not saying that every woman does that. I wouldn't say that every woman does that at all. But men basically cannot do it unless they are really, really femme. And then they can somehow get away with it, which is kind of disturbing, at least in the right company. If you're around a bunch of gay dudes, a gay guy who's really femme that everybody feels sorry for, he can pull that crap, right? And it's such a power trip. And the fact that they have excuses, like she says, oh, sorry, I'm a teacher. No, that's not what it was. What you were sorry about is that you let your mask slip. You were supposed to be the good representative of non-radical feminism. Of course, she probably was just saying a bunch of stuff that she doesn't really mean that evening to make herself seem like one of the good ones, so that it appears that feminists do sort of care about these issues and that they aren't fighting actively in the trenches to stop men from making any gains that would actually help the male specific population. I imagine that she is one of those people that's standing in the way, and maybe her and her other cohorts drew straws to see who would have to actually go there and pretend to smile and say, oh, well, yeah, no, we totally care about you guys. Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna keep teaching, and good progress. Good. I'll come back and check your work. You know, that's basically what was happening during this moment. But she knew when it got to the point where somebody was really, really getting to the heart of what was going on, you know, that she didn't really know what she was talking about, and that she was just having to kind of make it up as she went along to try to justify her stance of patriarchy and trying to dismiss gynocentrism in some way that doesn't really dismiss it at all. Like, is it just me, or did it kind of sound like she was trying to say that gynocentrism was defined by Boko Haram or something? Like, what? What was this? Like, she didn't know where it came from. And that poor guy is in the audience, like, asking a reasonable question. And then she's like, do you know where that actually comes from? And then it turns out she doesn't either. She has no idea. She just wants to say, well, the same men of the patriarchy. And they said it to make me... They came up with it so that I might feel stupid right now. And I'm mad. So that's something that feminists fight against. And that's all she had to do. She had the power. And one woman can do that to a room full of guys at any time she wants. She can just do that. And women are involved with politics, and they are involved with their husbands' politics. And I think it's so much more likely that there's an overbearing feminist wife that's going to be influencing her husband's vote with, social terrorism in their relationship than it would be with the reverse. And so, yeah, we already know that women are the majority of voters. Is there any real justification after watching this and just thinking a little bit about it that men actually hold more power, and the reason that they don't hold the CEO jobs and everything is because they don't have to? I mean, who would you rather be, a billionaire or a billionaire's wife? Just in pure ease of life. Anyhow, that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on BitChute. I might not be on YouTube forever. Okay, bye.